I hope you enjoyed that introduction, for those of you who didn't know, but yes, that was the bold look of Kohler, global sponsors of Manchester United, and of course our hosts today. So once again, welcome to this event. We are going to show the game live from 4 p.m. That's Manchester United versus Aston Villa, but I can see that our legend is already online. First of all, are you excited to meet Wes Brown? Yes. How many of you remember that season? Yes. Alright, allow me to introduce to you today. He's a winner of 5 Premier League titles, 2 FA Cups, 2 League Cups, and 2 UEFA Champions League trophies. Allow me to introduce Wes Brown!
Hello, this is John. I have another long question here. There are ownership issues from the United fan base.
John, today we're not talking about ownership of the club. Can we please keep the...
To answer that, John, I have no clue, just like you.
Alright. I'll change my question.
Alright.
So my question goes, which atmosphere or stadium did you experience the worst moments or experience as a United player?
Oh, very good. I think in England, I would have to say Liverpool. I just think it's the rivalry. We never felt very comfortable when we play at Liverpool. And I think from away from home, abroad, I would say Galatasaray or Barcelona. Galatasaray was crazy. The fans, it's a different experience altogether. And Barcelona, I always thought when we had the ball, the crowd would just whistle the whole game. They would whistle, and you couldn't actually hear the next person to you speak. So, luckily we had a good team and we could feel each people's movement, but we couldn't hear a thing. And I think for them games, you just have to play really well and have a good understanding with your teammates. And luckily, we was okay, and we got the results needed. But very difficult stadiums, them 3 to go to. Galatasaray, believe me, is a different experience altogether.
Hi, okay. My name is Moise. I'm a big Man U supporter. I've seen many games at Old Trafford, and I have only one question for you. How was your transformation
as a kid
to where you reached right now?
Yeah. I mean, that was first of all, I think it's something I always wanted to do. I think as a kid, sometimes you don't know what you want to do. But I think it was pretty early to me that I wanted to become a footballer. It's a bit different now how it all works. I mean, I didn't start playing football till I was 10, which is pretty late nowadays. I got on my first team when I was 11, and I used to play right wing. So, it took me a while. I just wanted to score, so it took me a while to get to the back. And then luckily I got scouted pretty quick for Man United at the age of 13. And then, I just give it everything, tried to practice every day, learned every day. And then luckily got a chance to play for the first team. And, as a Man United supporter myself as a child, it was probably a dream come true. And then to see, and play with so many great players along the way. Actually in the first team for 12 years was something that you can't really dream of or try and explain to people. But, that's all I ever wanted to do. Thank you.
Teamwork in football, and how did you maintain such a strong bond in football in United?
Yeah, good question. I think that first of all comes from the manager. like I said, I was there from a very young age, and we bought some very exciting, expensive players. And when I ever spoke to them about it, they always would explain that, they've never been at a club like this. They were probably the best player at their previous clubs. And he would tell me that when he came here, he couldn't understand or he didn't realise how much, everybody got on, how much teamwork. There was no one bigger than anyone. We always just worked hard and we basically knew what we were there to do, and that was to try and win games of football. So there was no one who, would be big-headed. Everybody would put the work in. And I think that starts from the top, if your best players are doing all the work, they're doing extra running, they're doing extra in the gym. I think that sets a standard, and then everybody follows it. But like I said, we were there to win, and that was our mentality.
Kim is my name, and I'm a big manager fan. My question is, looking back at, you have joined Manchester United basically as a child, spending all your teenage years and much of your youth in Manchester United, and achieving all these things that you achieved as a player, and many players will not even probably achieve, the trophies that you got. How was it when you knew it was time to leave? Was it something that you planned, how you're going to exit, and how was it emotionally for you at the end of it? And now when you look back and see all these achievements that you have and the men that you are now today. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll start off with emotional. I thought it'd be very easy. It got to the stage, I think my injuries started catching up. I actually had another year left, but I had a good conversation with the manager. And if you remember at the time, we had Chris Smalling and the Brazilian twins, Rafa and Fabio, who started to get into the team a little bit. So I wasn't playing as much. So, I had a chat with the manager. The manager said, listen, you can stay, but you're probably not going to play as much. And then obviously I thought, well, getting a bit older, I still want to play. Then obviously left for Sunderland. Probably the hardest thing I've ever done. As I said, my only ever job from a 13-year-old kid till I was 31 was, being at Manchester United. So that was very difficult. I think the decision was the right one. I mean, I would have played. I could have just sat maybe on the bench for the next season. But ultimately, I'm the sort of person with the character to, go out and work and try and help somebody else and help another team. But it was very difficult and a sad day. Luckily, as I'm doing this now and I'm still working for Man United, a lot of the staff are still the same now. So it's good to be back. But it was a very difficult time for the first few months. I was very lucky, actually, that me and John O'Shea went together, which helped. And then we also had, if you can remember, Phil Bardsley and Kieran Richardson, who were also at the club at some point. They were all at Sunderland at the same time. So I settled in pretty well, but it was a very, very hard situation. It might be different for people who have been sold and bought quite a lot. But for me, being from Manchester as well, was a difficult one.
Introduction, not the one that Carol gave. He's big, he's bad, he's Wesley Brown. The hardest man in all the town. With orange hair everywhere, come and have a go if you dare. Anyway, my question.
Wait, can we clap?
So my question is, let me take you back to a certain night in 2008. I reunited the Luzhniki Stadium. I was fortunate to be there. Nicolas Anelka stands up to take the penalty. Van der Sar ends up saving it. I went mental. Just describe to me your emotions at that time. Just at the moment when Van der Sar just saved the penalty.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. It was one of them nights. First of all, I start off with the team, the squad. As you'll remember, that team was unbelievable. From starting 11 to the subs. There was quality everywhere, and I think that season we knew something special could happen because of the players that we had, the confidence we had. Without being big-headed, we'd go into some games thinking, right, all we need to do is play well, and there's no chance of these beating us. It was that sort of season, and it doesn't happen all the time. But obviously, when John Terry misses, we're back in the game. You know, we're back in the game, and knowing Man United, we never give up. And I'm going to say unfortunately enough I came off, if you remember, with 15 seconds to go for Anderson for penalties. And I can first of all tell you that when you're on that pitch and you know that penalties is going to happen in maybe the next 20 seconds, the focus is still there. As soon as they got subbed, there was this energy that completely, like, it just drops out of your soul. And I was thinking, oh my God, I must have been so nervous. But because you don't want to think about it, you don't know about it at the time. But obviously there was this energy that dropped. Like, it's like I could go to sleep straight away. Everything came out of me because it was a very, very long night and a tough game. But obviously when Anelka's missed, for me, it was something that, because I've won one already, and I understand that, but when you're not playing, you know, there's a part of you that needs to play in a final and win one. You know, I know I was part of the squad and I played in certain games in '99. But ultimately, you want to be on that pitch and play. So I thought to myself, this is probably the best chance I'm going to get. So obviously, we did play well that game against a very good Chelsea, especially the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then we let them get back into it again. But obviously, that feeling of winning it again for me was in my top three feelings, because it's something that it doesn't happen all the time. Believe me when I say that. And you know, for me, people would always say, Premier League, which order would you do it in? Premier League, Champions League, or FA Cup? And I would always say Premier League. But when you get to a certain point in the Premier League where you sort of, you know, we were winning the Premier League sometimes 3 times on the bounce. You now know it's time to push to this Champions League and try and make a good charge in that. And that was, you know, and I think not just for me, but for a lot of the players, it was the right time to do it. But again, it was you know, so happy. And like I said, top 3 experiences that I've played in any game. Because they're the ones you want to be involved in. It's as simple as that.
I have one question I wanted to always ask you if I ever had the chance. And it was the game in 2015, Man U versus Sunderland. And it was about the 64th minute, the 60. I think you know where I'm going with this.
I know where you're going.
2-0 to Man U at the time. John Shep, I think, brought Randall down, or Carl down in the box, and you got the red card. So what happened there? Like how did it make you feel? Well, you got sent off for basically nothing. When you say
I mean, yeah, it was one of them. I mean, it was always going to be a difficult game, but when it happened, the referee run over to me. He obviously hadn't seen it. He just knew one of us took it down, and he basically took a gamble and said, "Right, where's your up?" So then I'm looking at him, thinking, "What are you talking about?" Like, and then, but he's already sent me off. So then Chasey runs over and goes, "Ref, Wes hasn't touched him." So he then went, "Who's touched him?" And Chasey went, "Well, it was me, but you've not sent me off. You sent John, you sent Wes off." But because I think the rule is, if you've already sent somebody off at that time, I know it can change. It can change now. You can rescind it and send someone else. So I was going, "Well, I'm not going off because I didn't touch him." And he goes, "Well, who touched him?" John said, "I touched him." And then he just went, "Wes?" He said a swear word, and he just said, "Get off." So I was just like in disbelief a little bit, thinking, well, we're already up against it because it's United Sunderland. And obviously I'm walking off, and you don't know what to, because obviously he's telling me to go off. I have to go off. But I'm actually just gobsmacked a little bit because, you know, it's not something that you need. But ultimately I knew it'll get rescinded the next day or that night because it obviously wasn't me. But it was, if I'm being honest, I laughed about it because what could I do? I mean, what else can you do? I'm that sort of character. It was a mistake. If anything, he's the one that's going to get in trouble for it, which I think he did. But, you know, it's just more my teammates, you know, I can't do much more. He sent me off and now I can't do anything to help my teammates. But as I said, it's a bad experience, but a funny one when I look back now. Edouard, first of all, I'd say you look a little bit like Nanny. I like that. The toughest player I faced, it was probably actually in the same game, and it was Zidane and R9, Ronaldo, Brazilian. We played them home and away. And if you remember the game, I think Ronaldo scored a hat-trick and he got applauded by all the fans. Honestly, and when I speak to any of the older players who are a little bit older than me, he was probably unstoppable, they said. I would have to say that them two in that particular game. No problem.
How's it going, Wes? You good?
Hi.
You look better without the goatee, by the way. Anyway, coming back to the question, for the 1999 Champions League final, what two players were suspended, which you could have done better with?
Roy Keane and Scholes. Is that what you asked? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, if you remember watching that game, we weren't that good for 90 minutes. We got a little bit of luck as well, but them two were a big miss for us. I mean, if you remember Roy Keane the game before, that was probably the best game I've ever seen him play. He just complete captain, warrior, whatever you want to call it, but he's the one that sort of stepped up and got us through, in a sense, got us back into the game. And then obviously Yorkie and Kohler did the rest of that game. But they were a big miss for us. And I think it's shown a little bit. We still had good players, but that Bayern Munich team was big, strong, tough. They didn't let anything down. And like I said, a little bit lucky. But, there's always that saying, never give up with us. And that's always been drilled into us. As you see, we've scored many late goals in the past, especially that season. And we would just keep on going. So I would tell you everyone thinks that's my first best feeling, but it's my second best feeling I've ever had. I'm not going to lie, I've never got up to that. When you win something and that adrenaline, that's probably I've never got anywhere close to that again. Obviously winning the treble as a young kid. And if I'm being honest, I thought that would happen every season. It was my first ever season. I just thought we were good enough to do that every season.
Having been in United for that long, how do you cope with the pressure around playing, one, for the team, such a high-profile team, but two, around the media and publicity around the personal things that have happened in your life?
And I think it's a lot easier now. I think as coming up as kids in the youth team, the training's a lot better now. When I first started, there wasn't that many mobile phones, so that'll probably help a little bit. But ultimately, like you said, you are always in the in the public. And yeah, I mean, people handle it differently. Some people are better than others. Some people want to be in the limelight, some don't. And you just have to find a routine for you, really. I mean, obviously, at some point, something's going to happen, and you sort of have to deal with it the best way you can. But I think me being Manchester, obviously coming through the youth team, a lot of people knew that I played for Man United youth. I was doing pretty well. Ultimately, I'm very comfortable at home in Manchester, for instance. But then you get superstars that come in, and it'll be a bit more intense. They can't really walk around the city centre that much. Even when they go for a meal, it can, as he's about to eat his food, there's someone tapping him, can have an autograph, blah, blah, blah. So you have to be able to deal with all these certain things. And I always feel it's a little bit unlucky, but it's a sport that, this is what we wanted to do. We knew what sort of comes with it. And you have to handle it the best you can. A lot of people don't go out at all. I know people don't understand that, but they basically go training, they eat right, they go home. If they've got kids, they see the kids. But a lot of the time, it's a shame because it used to be a little bit different because you could interact a little bit more, I suppose, with fans as well, because there's genuine fans, but then there's people that are not genuine, if that makes sense, who are looking to put something negative, and that's the thing. So the players are a little bit more standy-offy. It's changed a little bit now, so they're just being careful, and it's a shame in a way. It's a shame.
If given the chance to manage Man United, would you take it up? And if yes, what would you do better than what they're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone would ever not take it up, but I think I've put on 20 years in the first week with all the pressure that comes with it. I mean, I honestly think it's probably one of the hardest jobs because of the expectation. You know, we've not won or not been consistent now for many years. From players is a big thing because the players have to understand that, listen, he's the manager, whatever I say happens. Simple as that. If you don't like it, you can go and cry over there. That's just how I feel. That's how it was back then. I also like the fact that, you know, when signings come in, people always used to say to me, "Oh, we bought a defender. How do you feel?" I said, "I feel fine. It just means I have to work harder now, you know, because I need to be performing better than him. But we're teammates, and when he plays, you know, I want to do well. Ultimately, I need to do better." We all respected each other. You know, it's not like you know, a player gets bought and you go, "Oh, look at him, blah blah blah." It's like, "Oh my God, the gaffer's just bought this player. He's fantastic. I'm going to have to step up now." And then ultimately, you get the best out of all the players, but understanding that you're on the same team.
We only have about 10-12 minutes left because the game does begin in 20 minutes.
How did your experience as Manchester United shape you as a player and as a person?
Yeah, I mean that's a good one. I mean, when I was younger, I was very shy. Obviously, I was a very sporty person. I played lots of sports, but you sort of have to make a decision in the end, and I ended up, you know, I wanted to play football. You go to, as a young kid, you go many places. You travel to all over the world. You just learn along the way. You know, you take a lot of the manager. You know what's right and wrong, and you grow up pretty quickly. To be fair. And like I said, when we got to places, we respected everybody and everything, and I think that's the right way to go. And that, you know, that most of that came from the manager and the staff around him.
It looks really nice. You actually put it on your chest. Can you perfect that? Can you?